Have you ever felt surrounded by problems that seem impossible to solve? Have you ever thought that sometimes what you really need isn't something you can see or touch, but an invisible, powerful, divine force by your side? Today, we're diving into one of the most incredible stories in the Bible, where God's army, unseen by human eyes, defeated 185,000 soldiers in a single act of intervention. This story will show you how heavenly power can change any situation, no matter how impossible it seems. Stick with me until the end of this video, and you'll discover how this divine protection can be present in your own life, inspiring confidence and renewing your faith. Get ready to see how God's power works in ways that go beyond our understanding, protecting and guiding us in unimaginable ways. Angels have long captured the human imagination, evoking a sense of wonder and mystery. Throughout the scriptures, they play a pivotal role as divine messengers and protectors, operating within the unseen realm to influence the physical world. Understanding the function of angels is crucial for grasping the depth of God's protective care over humanity. In the Bible, angels are described not only as messengers of God but also as warriors engaged in spiritual battles on behalf of God's people. They serve as agents of divine protection, often intervening in critical moments to avert disaster or defeat. One of the most striking examples of their power is found in the story of the Assyrian army's siege on Jerusalem. In a remarkable display of divine intervention, an angel of the Lord struck down 185,000 soldiers in a single night, leading to the complete withdrawal of the Assyrian forces. This incident highlights the incredible authority that angels wield in carrying out God's will. The story begins during the reign of King Hezekiah of Judah, a time when the Assyrian Empire posed a significant threat to the Israelites. Sennacherib, the Assyrian king, had boasted of his victories and sent a threatening message to Hezekiah, declaring that no God could save Jerusalem from his might. Faced with this imminent danger, Hezekiah turned to God in prayer, seeking deliverance and protection for his people. In response to Hezekiah's heartfelt plea, God dispatched an angel, who acted swiftly and decisively. The outcome was nothing short of miraculous. In one night, the angel eliminated the enemy forces, demonstrating not only the might of the heavenly host but also the deep care that God has for his people. This account serves as a powerful reminder of the protection and strength available to those who trust in God. Angels often operate in ways that are unseen and mysterious, yet their impact is profoundly felt. They are not bound by the limitations of the physical world, enabling them to act swiftly in times of need. In our own lives, we may not always be aware of their presence, but many believers testify to moments where they felt an unexplained sense of protection or guidance, moments that can be attributed to these heavenly beings. The role of angels extends beyond mere protection; they are also agents of comfort and guidance. Throughout biblical history, angels have appeared to individuals at pivotal moments, providing reassurance and direction. For example, the angel who visited Mary to announce the birth of Jesus conveyed not just a message, but also a sense of divine purpose and assurance. As we delve into the stories of angels in the Bible, we will uncover how their interventions shape the lives of those who encounter them. The angelic presence serves as a reminder that, although we may face daunting challenges, we are never alone. God's protective hand is ever present, often working through his angels to bring about his plans and purposes. In conclusion, the exploration of angels in Scripture reveals their vital role as protectors and warriors in the spiritual realm. Their involvement in the lives of believers serves as a testament to God's unwavering commitment to safeguard his people. As we transition to the historical context of the angelic interventions, let's consider the backdrop of the dramatic encounter between the Israelites and the Assyrian forces, setting the stage for the miraculous acts of God and his angels. Historical and biblical context. To fully appreciate the significance of angelic intervention in the biblical narrative, it is essential to explore the historical and cultural context of the events surrounding the Assyrian siege of Jerusalem. This backdrop provides critical insights into the challenges faced by the Israelites and highlights the urgent need for divine intervention. The story takes place during the 8th century BC, a tumultuous period marked by geopolitical upheaval in the ancient Near East. The Assyrian Empire, known for its military prowess and brutal conquests, had expanded its territory significantly. Under King Sennacherib, the Assyrians sought to assert their dominance over the region, targeting Israel and Judah as key objectives in their campaign of conquest. The Israelites were thus caught in a perilous situation, facing a formidable enemy that had already decimated neighboring kingdoms. Socially and politically, the kingdom of Judah was in a vulnerable state. King Hezekiah had ascended to the throne with a strong desire to reform and revitalize the nation spiritually. He worked diligently to restore proper worship and eliminate idolatry, striving to lead his people back to faithfulness to Yahweh. However, despite these efforts, Judah found itself surrounded by powerful enemies, and the looming threat of invasion from Assyria weighed heavily on the nation. The Assyrian strategy relied heavily on psychological warfare. They sought to demoralize their adversaries through intimidation and fear. Sennacherib's emissaries delivered messages filled with taunts and threats, attempting to convince the people of Jerusalem that resistance was futile. They mocked the God of Israel, asserting that no God could save them from the might of the Assyrian army. This propaganda was designed to sow doubt and despair among the people, further compounding their anxiety. In this context, the role of divine intervention becomes even more critical. The Israelites faced not only a military threat but also a spiritual crisis. As the Assyrian forces encamped outside Jerusalem, the people were left grappling with fear and uncertainty. Would their faith be enough to withstand the overwhelming odds against them? It was during this dark hour that Hezekiah turned to God in desperation, seeking divine aid and intervention. God's response to Hezekiah's earnest prayers was swift and powerful. The angel sent to Jerusalem was not merely a passive observer, this celestial being actively engaged in the battle against the Assyrians, representing God's will and authority. The immediate outcome was miraculous. 185,000 soldiers fell dead in their sleep, leading to the complete retreat of the Assyrian forces. This divine intervention not only saved Jerusalem but also reaffirmed God's sovereignty over all nations. Understanding this historical backdrop allows us to appreciate the magnitude of the event. The defeat of the Assyrians was not just a military victory, it was a profound declaration of God's power and faithfulness. For the Israelites, this intervention served as a catalyst for renewed faith and trust in God. The narrative illustrates that in times of crisis, turning to God can lead to unexpected and miraculous outcomes. Moreover, the account of this divine intervention emphasizes the broader biblical theme of God's protection over His people. Throughout Scripture, we see that God responds to the prayers of the faithful, often through angelic agents. This pattern encourages believers to seek God earnestly, knowing that He is attentive to their needs. As we delve deeper into the narrative, we will examine the specific moments of angelic intervention and how these experiences shaped the faith of individuals and the nation of Israel as a whole. The context in which these events transpired underscores the critical nature of relying on God, especially when facing seemingly insurmountable challenges. In summary, the historical and biblical context surrounding the Assyrian siege reveals a complex interplay of political, social, and spiritual dynamics. It sets the stage for understanding the miraculous intervention of God through His angel, showcasing His commitment to protect and guide His people in their most desperate times. As we move to the next chapter, we will explore the moment of divine intervention itself, the pivotal role of the angel and the immediate impact on the battle. Divine intervention, the role of the angel. The moment of divine intervention in the siege of Jerusalem stands as a powerful testament to God's authority and the critical role angels play in executing His will. As the Assyrian army surrounded the city, the tension was palpable. The Israelites were anxious and fearful, aware of the formidable strength of their enemy, yet it was in this darkest hour that God stepped in, sending an angel to turn the tide of the battle. The biblical narrative highlights that King Hezekiah, facing insurmountable odds, turned to God with a sincere heart, pouring out his fears and beseeching divine assistance. This act of faith set the stage for a miraculous intervention. God, in response to Hezekiah's prayers, dispatched His angel, a powerful being equipped with the authority to execute God's judgment against the enemy. The role of the angel in this scenario cannot be overstated. Angels in Scripture are often depicted as messengers of God, but in this instance, the angel was more than a messenger, he was a warrior acting on behalf of the Almighty. The narrative unfolds with the angel descending into the heart of the Assyrian camp under the cover of night. In one swift and decisive action, the angel struck down 185,000 soldiers. This sudden devastation not only decimated the enemy ranks but also served as a profound reminder of God's power and sovereignty. Imagine the shock and disbelief that must have spread among the Assyrian soldiers when they awoke to find their ranks drastically reduced. What had seemed like an overwhelming victory was swiftly turned into a catastrophic defeat. This miraculous event illustrates how God can act swiftly and decisively in moments of crisis, using his angels as instruments of his divine purpose. The immediate impact of this divine intervention on the battle was profound. The surviving Assyrians, filled with fear and confusion, retreated, abandoning their siege on Jerusalem. The city, once on the brink of destruction, was miraculously saved. For the Israelites, this event marked not only a military victory but also a significant spiritual turning point. It reaffirmed their belief in God's faithfulness and power, igniting a renewed sense of hope and trust in his providential care. Moreover, this moment of divine intervention serves as a poignant reminder that God is ever present in our struggles, often working behind the scenes in ways we cannot see. While the Israelites were physically outmatched, their faith and reliance on God transformed their circumstances. The angel's intervention reflects the truth that God responds to the heartfelt cries of his people, demonstrating that faith, coupled with earnest prayer, can lead to miraculous outcomes. As we reflect on this powerful narrative, it's essential to recognize that God continues to act through his angels today. While we may not experience such dramatic interventions in our lives, many believers attest to moments where they sense divine protection or guidance. These experiences serve to reinforce our understanding of God's active involvement in our lives, even when we cannot see it. The story of the angel defeating the Assyrian army is not just an ancient account, it carries timeless truths applicable to our lives today. It encourages us to approach God with our fears and challenges, trusting that he hears our prayers and is capable of delivering us from our trials. As we transition to the next chapter, we will explore other instances of angelic intervention in the Old Testament. These stories will further illuminate the consistent pattern of divine protection and guidance that God offers to his people throughout history, reinforcing our understanding of the power of angels as agents of his will. Angels in the Old Testament, other cases of intervention. The narrative of divine intervention during the Assyrian siege of Jerusalem is just one of many instances in the Old Testament where angels played a crucial role in God's plan for his people. These celestial beings frequently acted as agents of protection, guidance, and deliverance throughout the biblical narrative, demonstrating God's unwavering commitment to those who trust in him. One notable example is the story of Abraham. In Genesis 18, we find God sending 3 visitors to Abraham and Sarah. While these visitors are often interpreted as angels or manifestations of God, their message was clear: God promised Abraham and Sarah a son despite their old age. This promise was pivotal, as it laid the foundation for the nation of Israel. The angel's presence not only conveyed God's promise but also served as a reminder of his faithfulness to his covenant people. Similarly, Jacob encountered angels during his journey in Genesis 32. As he prepared to meet his estranged brother Esau, Jacob wrestled with an angel throughout the night. This struggle was not merely physical, it symbolized Jacob's internal conflict and his desperate need for God's blessing. At dawn, the angel blessed Jacob, renaming him Israel, which means, he struggles with God. This encounter highlighted the role of angels as messengers of God's will, guiding and transforming individuals at pivotal moments in their lives. Another significant instance of angelic intervention occurs in the story of Daniel. In Daniel 6, we read about how King Darius, manipulated by envious officials, was tricked into issuing a decree that would lead to Daniel being thrown into the lion's den. However, God sent his angel to shut the mouths of the lions, protecting Daniel throughout the night. When Darius returned in the morning, he found Daniel unharmed. This miraculous deliverance showcased not only God's protective power but also his ability to intervene dramatically in the lives of those who remain faithful to him. These examples illustrate that angels serve as God's messengers and protectors, often appearing during times of crisis. The consistent theme of angelic intervention throughout the Old Testament reinforces the belief that God is actively involved in the lives of his people. Each encounter with an angel serves to remind us that God is present, attentive, and responsive to our needs. Furthermore, the angelic presence in these stories serves as a model for how believers today can expect God to act in their lives. Just as angels delivered messages of hope and protection in biblical times, many people today report feeling guided or protected in moments of distress. This connection between past and present encourages a deeper faith, reminding us that God's angels are still at work, watching over those who trust in him. As we transition to the next chapter, we will connect the historical significance of these angelic encounters with the present day. We will explore how the lessons learned from these biblical accounts can be applied to our lives, emphasizing that the divine protection and guidance we see in Scripture continue to resonate today. The next segment will illuminate how God's intervention, often facilitated by angels, remains relevant and impactful in our daily experiences. Connecting with today, divine protection in the present. As we reflect on the incredible stories of angelic intervention in the Old Testament, it becomes clear that the themes of divine protection and guidance are not confined to ancient history. In fact, the same God who sent his angels to assist his people in biblical times continues to work invisibly in our lives today. Understanding this connection helps us recognize the relevance of these narratives in our own experiences, inviting us to explore how divine protection manifests in our daily lives. In our modern world, where chaos and uncertainty often prevail, the need for reassurance and protection is more relevant than ever. Just as the Israelites found themselves surrounded by the Assyrian army, we can feel overwhelmed by the challenges we face. Whether it's health crises, financial struggles, or personal conflicts, these battles can leave us feeling vulnerable and alone. However, the stories of divine intervention serve as powerful reminders that we are not abandoned. God is still actively involved in our lives, orchestrating circumstances for our good. Many believers report experiencing moments where they felt guided or protected in situations that seemed dire. These modern-day testimonies echo the biblical accounts, where individuals sense the presence of a higher power. For example, someone might find themselves in a car accident that should have been fatal but walks away unscathed, attributing their survival to divine intervention. Such stories reinforce the belief that God's angels are still engaged in the spiritual battles we face today, offering protection when we least expect it. Moreover, the idea of divine protection is not limited to physical safety. Many people experience emotional and spiritual protection as well. During times of grief, loss, or anxiety, individuals often describe feelings of peace that surpass understanding. This profound sense of calm can be seen as the comforting presence of God's angels, guarding our hearts and minds in difficult times. Just as the angel comforted Daniel in the lion's den, we too can find solace in the midst of life's storms. The connection between the biblical accounts and contemporary experiences encourages us to cultivate a mindset of awareness and gratitude for God's protective hand in our lives. Prayer, meditation, and reflection are vital practices that allow us to tune into this divine presence. By inviting God into our daily routines, we can recognize his subtle guidance and the comfort of his protection. Consider the role of prayer in this context. Just as King Hezekiah turned to God in his hour of need, we are encouraged to bring our worries and fears before him. This act of faith opens the door for divine intervention. God may not always answer our prayers in the ways we expect, but trusting in his plan allows us to experience his protection in unexpected ways. Furthermore, understanding the role of angels in our lives invites us to cultivate a deeper relationship with God. While angels are powerful beings, our ultimate reliance should be on God himself. The angels serve as reminders of his love and care, but it is through our relationship with Him that we find true peace and strength. In this modern context, it is essential to acknowledge that not every challenge will be met with miraculous intervention. Life is filled with trials, and sometimes the answers to our prayers may not align with our desires. However, this does not diminish God's presence in our struggles. Even when we face difficulties, we can trust that God is with us, guiding us through the storms of life. As we move to the next chapter, we will delve deeper into the importance of faith in the unseen. Just as the Israelites had to trust in God's promises amidst overwhelming odds, we too must strengthen our faith in the invisible forces at work in our lives. This exploration will highlight the significance of trusting God even when we cannot see His hand at work, fostering a deeper connection with our Creator and His divine plan for us. Faith in the unseen, the power of trusting God. As we navigate through life, we often encounter circumstances that challenge our understanding and test our faith. In these moments, it's essential to remember that our relationship with God requires trust in the unseen, an unwavering belief that He is working for our good, even when we cannot directly perceive His actions. This chapter explores the importance of having faith in God's invisible presence and guidance, particularly in times of difficulty. The Bible is replete with examples of individuals who demonstrated remarkable faith despite overwhelming odds. Take, for instance, Moses, who led the Israelites out of Egypt. Faced with the Red Sea in front and Pharaoh's army behind, Moses had to trust in God's promise of deliverance. In Exodus 14, God instructed him to lift his staff over the sea, and as he obeyed, the waters parted. This incredible act of faith resulted not only in physical salvation but also in a profound spiritual lesson. Trusting in God's plan can lead to miraculous outcomes. Similarly, the story of David illustrates the power of faith amidst fear. When he faced Goliath, a giant warrior, David relied on his past experiences of God's faithfulness. He confidently declared, "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the bear will rescue me from this Philistine." 1 Samuel 17 verse 37. David's faith in God's invisible power enabled him to confront a seemingly insurmountable challenge and emerge victorious. His story encourages us to reflect on our own experiences of divine intervention and recognize the moments when God has been faithful in our lives. In our daily lives, the challenge of trusting in God's invisible work can often feel daunting. We may find ourselves praying fervently for answers to pressing questions or relief from our struggles, yet feel as though our prayers go unheard. During these times, it's crucial to remember that God's timing is not our own. He may not reveal His plan immediately or in the way we expect, but His presence is always with us, guiding and comforting us through our trials. Faith in the unseen is not merely passive acceptance, it requires active engagement. We can cultivate this faith by immersing ourselves in Scripture, where we find countless stories of God's faithfulness. Meditating on these accounts can strengthen our belief that God is working, even when we cannot see the evidence. Additionally, surrounding ourselves with a community of believers provides encouragement and support. Sharing our struggles and victories with one another reinforces the truth that we are not alone in our faith journey. Moreover, prayer plays a vital role in fostering a deeper connection with God. It serves as a channel for communication, allowing us to express our fears, doubts, and hopes. As we bring our concerns before God, we invite Him into our circumstances, reminding ourselves that He is in control. Prayer helps to align our hearts with God's will and cultivates an attitude of expectancy, trusting that He is actively working in our lives. In times of difficulty, it can be helpful to reflect on God's past faithfulness in our lives. By recounting previous instances where we have felt His presence or experienced His protection, we can build a foundation of trust. This practice not only reinforces our faith but also cultivates gratitude, reminding us of the many ways God has intervened on our behalf. As we continue to trust in the unseen, we develop resilience in the face of adversity. Just as the heroes of faith in the Bible encounter trials, we too will face challenges. However, it is our unwavering belief in God's goodness and His promises that sustains us. We may not always understand why we endure certain hardships, but we can rest assured that God's plan is perfect. In the next chapter, we will explore contemporary testimonies of faith and miracles, illustrating how individuals today experience divine intervention and protection in their lives. These real-life stories will further demonstrate that the invisible hand of God is still at work, guiding and protecting those who trust in Him. Testimonies and contemporary examples. As we journey through life, we often encounter moments that challenge our understanding of faith and divine intervention. In these instances, personal testimonies of miracles and experiences of protection can serve as powerful reminders of God's ongoing presence in our lives. These contemporary stories not only reinforce our belief in the invisible but also inspire us to recognize the ways God works today. Consider the story of Sarah, a young mother who faced a dire health crisis. Diagnosed with a severe illness, she was overwhelmed with fear and uncertainty about her future. Despite her struggles, Sarah turned to prayer, seeking God's guidance and comfort. In a moment of desperation, she felt an overwhelming sense of peace, as if she were being enveloped in divine love. As she continued to pray, her doctors were astonished to find that her condition had improved dramatically, leading to a full recovery. Sarah attributes her healing to God's miraculous intervention, sharing her story to inspire others facing similar challenges. Another powerful testimony comes from James, a businessman who found himself on the brink of financial ruin. After months of struggling to keep his company afloat, he was on the verge of bankruptcy. In his darkest moment, James sought counsel from his pastor, who encouraged him to pray and trust in God's provision. Feeling led to make bold decisions, James applied for a loan he thought was beyond reach. Miraculously, not only was his loan approved, but it also came with favorable terms that allowed him to turn his business around. Today, James shares his story of faith as a reminder that even when circumstances seem bleak, God can bring about unexpected solutions. These accounts of divine intervention resonate deeply with our human experience. They remind us that God is not a distant figure, but an active participant in our lives. When we hear these stories, we are encouraged to reflect on our experiences and recognize how we, too, may have encountered moments of divine guidance and protection. Moreover, many believers recount times when they felt an inexplicable sense of direction in their lives. For example, Maria, a college student, found herself lost in a new city during a particularly stressful time in her life. Instead of succumbing to panic, she paused and prayed for clarity. Almost immediately, she felt compelled to take a certain route, which led her to a community center offering support for students. This serendipitous encounter opened doors for her, leading to friendships and resources that transformed her college experience. Maria often shares her story to illustrate how God's invisible hand can guide us, even in seemingly mundane situations. These testimonies highlight that divine protection and intervention are not limited to dramatic, life-altering events. Sometimes it's the small moments, a chance encounter, a feeling of peace, or a sudden insight, that can profoundly impact our lives. These instances serve to reinforce our faith and encourage us to remain open to the possibilities of God's involvement in our daily routines. As we reflect on these stories, it's essential to recognize that the act of sharing personal testimonies can inspire others. Our experiences of faith and divine intervention can uplift those around us, reminding them that they are not alone in their struggles. When we speak openly about how God has moved in our lives, we foster a sense of community and connection, reinforcing the idea that faith is a shared journey. In the next chapter, we will explore the concept of spiritual warfare and the role of angels in the ongoing battle against evil forces. This exploration will help us understand the broader context of divine protection, extending our discussion beyond individual experiences to the spiritual realities that surround us every day. The spiritual battle, the role of angels in the war against evil. In our journey of faith, it is essential to recognize that the world we inhabit is not merely a physical realm but also a spiritual battleground. The Bible provides us with insights into the ongoing conflict between good and evil, a battle in which angels play a vital role as God's agents in the fight against malevolent forces. Understanding this spiritual warfare helps us appreciate the significance of divine protection in our lives. The Apostle Paul reminds us of the reality of this spiritual struggle in Ephesians 6 verse 12, where he states, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places." This passage highlights that our challenges often stem from unseen forces seeking to undermine our faith and distract us from God's purpose. Angels, as described in Scripture, are powerful beings created by God to serve His will. They are depicted as warriors equipped to combat evil and protect God's people. A notable example of this can be found in 2 Kings 6, where the prophet Elisha and his servant are surrounded by the enemy. In this moment of fear, Elisha prays for his servant's eyes to be opened, revealing a heavenly army of angels ready to defend them. This powerful image underscores that God's protection is ever present, even when we cannot see it. Moreover, angels are not only warriors but also messengers of God. They deliver divine guidance and encouragement, reminding us that we are not alone in our struggles. For instance, in Luke 1, the angel Gabriel brings the announcement of Jesus' birth to Mary, offering her reassurance and clarity about God's plan. This act of communication demonstrates how God uses angels to convey His will and support us during pivotal moments in our lives. Understanding the role of angels in spiritual warfare equips us to confront the challenges we face with confidence. We can take comfort in knowing that, as we engage in prayer and seek God's protection, we are supported by an invisible army fighting on our behalf. This truth encourages us to stand firm in our faith, knowing that we are not defenseless against the forces of darkness. Furthermore, engaging in spiritual warfare involves recognizing the tools God has provided us to combat these evil forces. Prayer, worship, and the study of Scripture are powerful weapons that allow us to align ourselves with God's will and resist temptation. As we delve deeper into our faith, we become more aware of the spiritual dynamics at play in our lives, empowering us to navigate challenges with grace and strength. In our next chapter, we will discuss practical ways to strengthen our faith in God's protection, exploring how we can cultivate a deeper connection with Him through prayer, study, and spiritual growth. This journey will help us not only understand the divine forces at work but also actively participate in the spiritual battle that surrounds us. Call to action: how to strengthen your faith in God's protection. As we reflect on the profound truths surrounding angels and divine protection, it's essential to consider how we can actively strengthen our faith and deepen our connection with God. Here are some practical steps to help you cultivate a stronger reliance on His protection in your daily life. Engage in regular prayer. Prayer is our lifeline to God, a way to communicate our fears, desires, and gratitude. By making prayer a daily habit, we invite God into our lives and acknowledge our dependence on Him. Set aside specific times to pray, and don't hesitate to ask for guidance, strength, and protection in your life's battles. Study Scripture. The Bible is full of promises regarding God's protection and the role of angels in our lives. Dedicate time to read and meditate on passages that speak to God's faithfulness. Reflecting on these truths can fortify your spirit and remind you of His unchanging nature. Seek community support. Surround yourself with fellow believers who can encourage and uplift you. Join a small group or Bible study where you can share experiences and pray for one another. Community fosters accountability and strengthens our faith as we learn from each other. Practice gratitude. Cultivating a heart of gratitude can shift your focus from fear to faith. Keep a journal to document instances where you've experienced God's protection or guidance. Reflecting on these moments will reinforce your belief in His active involvement in your life. As you incorporate these practices into your life, remember that strengthening your faith is a journey. Trust that God's protection surrounds you, empowering you to face each day with courage and confidence. Remember that the invisible power of God is constantly at work, protecting and guiding those who place their trust in Him. Just as the story of God's army defeating 185,000 soldiers illustrates, divine intervention can transform our circumstances in ways we often cannot see. This unseen strength offers us reassurance in our struggles, reminding us that we are never alone in our battles. I invite you to take a moment to reflect on how God's divine power might be operating in your life right now. Consider the ways He has provided for you, offered protection, and guided your steps. With renewed faith and hope, let's face our challenges confidently, knowing that the God who works miracles is always by our side. If this message resonated with you, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and share this video with others who might need encouragement. Together, let's spread the word about the incredible power of divine protection.